strongly against that. So the rhetoric is increasing, and now the escalation as well on the ground of U.S. military forces, active duty Marines being sent in a supporting role, but still on the ground nonetheless, in addition to those National Guard troops and the LA police that are already on the scene. That represents a new level of possible instability in these protests. It's probably going to instigate further protests, but the potential for more conflict is very real.
Anthony, as you're speaking, we're looking again at live pictures as people have amassed in parts of downtown Los Angeles. We see their National Guards members lined up in front of a federal facility. So we're watching that to see what happens next. But as we do so, tell us a bit more about how the president and his administration are defending their decisions.
Well, they are saying that they are,
as you can see,
defending law and order.
There are,
as you noted earlier, Donald Trump is
Marines that are going to be sent to the Los Angeles area.
America's second largest city, a possible insurrection, that these are riotous mobs, migrant mobs, he's called them. And so he's justifying this stepping in, and other administration officials are justifying this intervention as standing up for law and order, and also following through on a campaign promise, which was mass deportations. If you remember, during the presidential campaign just last year, Donald Trump talked about it all the time. He was supported by a majority of public opinion.
700 Marines
is
going to be activated to the Los Angeles area.
Now. So essentially, they're saying this is not only a follow-through of a campaign promise, but then stepping forward to ensure the security while these forces are rounding up migrants, undocumented migrants, detaining them and preparing them for deportation.
Wow, so that's
on the ground covering the protests. We were working on getting his line secure there. Carl, good to see you. People have been gathering to protest. Tell us what's happening where you are.
Yeah, where we are is very similar to the area where last night we saw those scenes of protesters taking over.
You guys, 700 Marines
arrests, and really some pretty chaotic scenes of clashes
for the Los Angeles area that will be activated.
A more peaceful protest taking place near
How many of you are keeping up with what's going on?
An unlawful assembly by the authorities on the ground, and you can probably see behind me.
They're gathered at a place that is considered unlawful.
What they're trying to do,
so I hope everybody kind of understands this.
Where we saw those demonstrators
so where you see these people at currently, the report is, okay, now get this, they're gathering at places to protest that are deemed inappropriate, unlawful. So this is an issue. So this is the reason why right here you see the Army National Guard, because they're saying that they're not supposed to gather there.
This has definitely changed now. It feels a lot more charged, a lot more emotional than it did earlier. The crowds have really swelled since about noon or 1, and we were expecting 2, 3, or 4 different demonstrations today.
And see, what I'm not understanding, you guys give me your thoughts. They're saying that the numbers are increasing since 1 o'clock today. So I'm not understanding how I know you can protest, but I'm not understanding how they have all of this time. Now, here's what we know. Here's what we know so far. The president of the United States, which is Trump, is saying that he's going to activate 700 Marines
we can speak now
to the area.
Congressman Brad Sherman from the state of California. Congressman, it's great to have you back.
So how many of you are aware that the governor of California is saying that President Trump did not have to deploy troops and that they had everything under control? I'm paraphrasing, okay? So I'm not saying absolute to those specific words, but I'm paraphrasing that he said that he didn't need the military to come in to assist and that they had everything under control. in order to distract from the enormous Paul Wood says, yes, good, he needs to. So Paul Wood, can you really vouch for and say that we should be sending in Marines to assist in the area? Do you feel like from what you've watched in the news that California did not have it under control and that the president should have inserted some help to assist? Do you feel that way? Paula says Trump and ICE. So far, he is Christine says, I thought they did have it under control 3 days ago, but not now. This is not an attempt to seriously change. Okay, Paul responded, yes, they had their own police department, not even going after looters. Okay. Right now on these scenes from so basically what you're saying is, yes, they had their own police department, but they were not handling it in a regard that seemed safe for the area. So President Trump felt as if he needed to insert some help to further make certain that the citizens were safe. Los Angeles is peaceful. I told y'all said they didn't have it under control. Okay, so he's saying that they didn't have it under control. A few hooligans, the Star says, I don't believe that's the right decision. But what if something goes on and we can't use that group because they're in California for something useless? Okay, that's a thought. That's a thought. So the Star is saying, what if something happens in another part of the United States and we need help and we've deployed them to take care of something that California PD could have taken care of themselves? That is the right move? It's certainly the right move. Okay, the police just said they need federal help. Well, YM, I have a question for you. YM, you said the police just said that they need federal help. Here's the deal. Why are they reporting in the news that the governor of California is saying that they don't need any help? So that's conflicting. The police in California are saying that they need help, but then the governor is saying that they don't need help. That's conflicting information. And here's the deal. When you have people who do not live in California and they're not from the area and we're relying on the news, like they need to make certain that they're giving information that is accurate. The governor of California and President Trump. We saw. Okay, Good Time said that the governor told his cops to stand down. Wow. What crime he would have committed. And he said the United States has 226,000 enlisted Marines currently. I think we would have plenty to go around. Okay. And I didn't. Okay, so basically what you're saying is, even if we've deployed troops in the Marine troops there, should something happen in another part of the United States, we'll be okay. And of course, that's President Trump. Keegler Moon said, I think they are waiting for the protesters to do things that swings public favor to the government side. Okay. Are migrants from the immigrant communities who are not citizens, who are concerned. What is your Cheryl said the people in LA can be dangerous. Okay. Let Donald Trump use you to try to inflame the entire country. I can live with. I really. Let me just read that again. The people in LA can be dangerous. I'm not from LA, so I don't know a whole lot about LA. So I'm going to gather from that statement, Cheryl, that you're saying that we need the reinforcement because things can get out of hand really quick. In my opinion, they should. In my opinion, they should send like 100 and let the 100 Marine plus the PD figure it out. Okay, Daystar says that basically, in a nutshell, you're saying send California PD some assistance to help them with what it is that they need to do. But don't do an overkill and just go over there and take over. That's pretty much what I'm getting from that. Once the city is tore up, then they will. Once the city is tore up, then they could pocket the money like they did for the fires. Oh, wow.
when that administration exceeds its constitutional and statutory grounds and uses a military force.
On another
that is
note,
really
the
designed
National Guard
for
has already
warfare,
been sent out
not
there.
for law enforcement within
So
our
if them
borders.
people
I
in the
have
police
no
department
choice
can't
but to
keep it
examine
under
every tool
control, I would
available
agree
in
they
our tool
probably
chest
should
and in the
be
state's
doing
tool
something else.
chest to
Okay, I
resist.
can live with that.
As we like to say in some quarters, with all my
YM
heart
said,
and all
let
my
them
soul
take
and all
over the
my
city.
might, because this is
Blanket. I'm not going to
unquestionably
use
an
the curse
overreach.
word.
I'd like
Black
to
Air
address
Force Energy.
what Mr. Bannon
They
just
want
said,
it to
whether
be
or not the president has the availability,
stuff
whether or
so
not
it
he is the
seems as bad
commander
as
in
possible.
chief.
Okay, so
That
let
does
me
not
speak to
mean
that.
that he
Black
has
Air
the
Force Energy. Let me
legality
speak to
or
this.
the ability under our
So are you
Constitution and our laws
kind
to
of
do what he
saying
did.
your opinion is
Can I ask you about
they're
what the
kind of
Attorney General
trying to
said?
make
He
it
said,
bigger than what it
"It is
really
no
is by
accident that the
doing
right
all
to
of
a
this? Is
peaceful
that what
protest
you
is in
are
the First
kind of
Amendment.
saying?
It's because peaceful
Why are
protest
they
is a
waving the
cornerstone of any
flag of
healthy
Mexico,
democracy."
but they don't
This is
want to go
precisely
there?
what the Trump administration is pointing to.
Brandon.
They say that the city
Brandon
lost
Barkley.
control because the protests
Here's
on
the
Friday
deal,
and
Brandon.
into Saturday were not
I know
peaceful.
there are other
What do
people
you make
on
of that?
here,
I'm
but
sorry,
here is the deal.
I'm a lawyer.
Why
I
are
don't
they
speak
waving
in
the
flying
flag of
rhetoric,
Mexico but
and I
don't want to
certainly
go
don't
there?
make
Brandon, are you
statements without
saying
facts. So
that
let's
they
take a
are
quick
in the
look at the
land of
facts.
America
Mass protests.
and
The
want
city of
to
Los
be
Angeles
here
covers
and don't
nearly
want to be
500 square
deported for
miles.
whatever
The
the
county
reason
covers
is
nearly
of going
5,000.
back home,
We have
but
4
yet
million
they're
residents in the
waving their
city and
flag.
12
So
million
are you saying that
inhabitants.
that's conflicting
and this
and
county has
difficult
a
to kind of
long
like
and storied
understand
history
and
of
like it
protest.
doesn't make sense?
Just in the time that I have lived in LA,
Like,
and
I
came
get
here as
that,
an
and they do
adult,
have flags
we
out
have
there.
faced protests for civil rights, for
Imagine if they
reproductive
just
rights, for
leave and
AIDS, for
everything
LGBTQ+.
will go back to
We
normal.
have
Stop
faced
with the
protests
political
like Black
theater.
Lives Matter. We have faced protests over
Hank,
the
you're right.
conflict in
We
the
do
Middle East
have
from
the
students
Army.
from universities,
Adrian, all
and just
states have
about
National
every army you
Guards.
can imagine.
That
My
most likely
city
is
is
the
not
California
out of
National Guard.
control.
That's
I
true.
really dispute that fact. We have made, and the
Toy
LAPD has been engaged since Friday.
Magando.
I
I
would
may
be
be pronouncing your
remiss if
name
I
wrong.
didn't
Forgive me.
compliment
He
and
said,
really express
send the
my
squad.
gratitude to the best trained law enforcement
So let the
agency
squad
in
go.
the
This is
country
all
for what they
BS. It's
do every
great
day
at
and what
my
they've
house
been able
today.
to do.
Okay, this guy you said is great at your house. What state are you in? Robin says Civil War. Deport them all.
That's what people have a problem with.
Deport them and all the criminals, Chris Angel said. The native, hello, I'm a new subscriber. P.O. year. Okay, thank you, native. She said, I shouldn't say C because I don't know if it's a male or female, and I don't want to disrespect. I want to tell you thanks for subscribing. Anybody else who's on and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. There are times that I come on and I have so many people that come on to view and hear what it is I have to say, and they cannot get in because YouTube is only going to let a certain number in based on how many subscribers you have. So if you don't mind subscribing for me, I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Now, here's what I want to say. Thank you, Selena, for subscribing. Here's what I want to say. I want you guys to really give this some thought. I have a question, and here's my question. How many of you think, well, hold on to my question. Hold on. I have to read what Duran have just put. Waving one flag that is not a U.S. flag is illegal. Flying two flags is legal. Why not both or the United States only? Wow. Wow. You know, and here's what I want to show. For those of you who may not be paying attention, this is what the person is talking about. Do you guys see the flag? Do you guys see the flag? Okay. And then if you look, the United States, I wish you guys would really look. You can see parts of the United States flag and then their country's flag. So I see what Duran is talking about. Like, do you guys see that?
Yes, the American people, many of them, including
like,
Democrats, have a problem with illegal immigration.
I see what you're talking about now. I see what you're talking about now. And for whatever reason, I think they're taking a break. But I see what you're talking about. I see that. Like, why would you wave, why would you wave one flag? Is that not illegal?
Well, President Trump
is what she's
Director
saying.
Coleman,
It was
made
what the
clear
person
that
is
violent
saying.
criminals are their first
I see
targets,
it.
but that
So
additionally,
here's the
illegal
deal.
immigration is a massive problem.
I'm
Millions of people
not
were let
being
in through the
biased.
gates,
I
throughout
promise
this
I'm not
past
being
administration, and
biased.
that needs to be taken care of.
But that was a great observation that
And it
was
ramped up
just made.
substantially under the Biden administration.
A record number of crossings in the Biden administration. Okay, we could talk about this probably for another 20, 30
I'm
minutes,
kind of
but we have run out of
speechless.
time. So, Mark and Joy,
Manny
thank you so
says,
much
and
for
if
coming
black
and speaking
had
with
a
us today.
flag,
Really good
we
to get
wouldn't
the
fly it proudly.
That was
Wow.
taking place as well, but we did not see that.
They're
here.
like
And
Pokemon.
by
You
the
got to
time the
catch
National
them all.
Guard got here, it was already way after.
It
the
may
violence had taken
violate
place. So
flag
now we
code,
see
but flag
the National
code is
Guard,
not enforceable. So
coming
therefore,
in
there's
quickly
nothing
this
to
weekend
do
to
with
help
somebody
defend
who
this federal
flies this type of
property.
flag.
And what
Okay,
we are
okay.
kind of noticing is that as much as they can, it appears that
Royal
the
says, shout out
LAPD
to all
has
my
been trying
Mexicans
to
that
create a
voted for
buffer
Trump.
between the
Wow,
protest
okay.
zone and the federal
It's the
officials,
same
that they
thing when
keep
people
some distance
wave the
between
American flag,
protesters and
Confederate
federal
flag combo.
authorities.
Okay.
That will help alleviate some of the violence that we
They
have
should
seen,
have a white
because
flag.
the anger is not
LOL.
placed at the LAPD. This is a somewhat unique situation where most
We
of
don't
the
have the
anger
same
and
patriotic
destruction
blood
was really
flowing
until last
like
night,
we
where things
did
got
early
out of control
2000s.
and we
Who
did see lots of
agrees with
vandalism
that?
and
We don't have the
pandemonium.
same.
For the most part, the anger
Make
amongst the
America
protesters
gay
is aimed
always.
squarely at the federal
And I
government,
see the
not local
rainbow, which is
authorities,
the pride.
not private citizens, not private property.
There better not
All
be
of the
any
anger
black
is
people out
focused
there.
on
This
the
isn't
ICE
our fight.
actions that have been
Well,
taking place here in Southern
read
California.
minds, please. Oh, hell, Trump break. Here's what I want to say to you guys. Here's the question. I was about to ask a question before we got on the flag. If you want to wave a flag, Mexican flag, why not just go back to Mexico? Okay, Frank, your statement. If you want to wave a Mexican flag, why not just go back to Mexico? Now, here's the deal. So many people made this statement and had the mindset of they were totally confused why they were waving a Mexican flag but resisting going back home. For those of you who may not know, a lot of Americans are discussing openly and in private that there are flags being waved of Mexico, but they're in the United States and they're resisting going home. And so many people have mixed opinions about that, and a lot of people are left baffled as to why. And here's the deal. We actually have some people in America who feel disrespected. So I've had people to say that to me as well. And so I asked them to elaborate, and they're saying that it's a disrespect because the comments are, it's like a slap in our face to say, okay, Mexico is great. We love our country. We're proud of our country. But you're in the United States and don't want to go back. Now, here's the deal. That's not my comment. That's not my thoughts. I'm just sharing with you the information that people are saying to me as I cover this, okay, in response.
Between rules of engagement and rules of force, and the difference is beyond my
So,
but as you mentioned, the National Guard here defending the federal property, they are armed.
do we feel like, Big Tech says, I'm born and raised in the States, but I will not go on live, go and live in Mexico. Well,
when they arrive.
not everyone wants to go back to Mexico because it's tough down there and they left for a reason. And so this would explain why they're resisting and why they're trying to stay in America. But that's not the plans of the United States of America and what our president is saying. They're going to be deported if, they're not here legally and not doing what they're supposed to do. It's like, it's so many ways of looking at this, and it's like, when I look at this, here's my opinion of this. When I look at this as the start of something. Okay. And when I say the start of something, I mean the start of something like this is like civil unrest. And people are not even respecting authority. You guys are following it. They're burning cars, and they were at a federal building protesting, and they were saying that that's unlawful. So it's like whenever something happens in one area, it doesn't take long for it to spread in other areas. And so that's my only concern. Not to say that I don't have sympathy for what's going on in Los Angeles, but I don't want what's going on in Los Angeles to be mimicked and then people kind of start doing it everywhere. Okay? Marty says Civil War. I'm glad I'm in Tennessee. I can't handle that. It is okay if they left from Mexico and here illegally. Why send them back? A waiver should be given. Okay, so Reading Book says it is okay if they left from Mexico and here illegal. Why send them back?
Copy.
A waiver should be given. So you feel like there should be some type of something given to them so they can stay here and not have to go back to their home to harsh treatments, is what you're saying. Deport any illegals. People are acting out and I don't want anything to do with it. Most of us don't. Is this protest everywhere or just in Los Angeles? Big Texas, just in Los Angeles. But as I just stated, my concern is when something happens in one area, people have a tendency to mimic that and do that in other areas as well. And the Marines will end this
we're going to take off in a
foolishness.
couple minutes and get some fuel and be here for the rest of the afternoon. One thing to add, we should tell everybody, is that the LAPD is now on tactical alert, citywide tactical alert.
They're going
They
to
have asked
lose
everybody,
bigly.
by the way,
Here's the
earlier this
thing.
weekend to suspend their vacations and make themselves
It's just so
available
unfortunate. Can you
for
guys see
whatever
this
is
right
going to
here?
transpire.
They're,
So we
the
have
authorities are
all the
preparing
resources
and
that you
ready.
can imagine available at the disposal of the LAPD.
Right there.
But to your point,
But
there,
they're saying
about,
right here, you see, they're saying that they have it under control.
He really hits the nail on the head.
And that
because
they don't
it's
need
the
any assistance.
inclusion of more federal militarized authorities that is going to create more escalation. It's not really meant to alleviate. They are here for one purpose, and we know what that is. Local law enforcement is really trying to mitigate that, to try and mitigate the political disaster from what's happening on our city streets. So it's all so tenuous, and it's just something that we just are not used to seeing.
Elon said that Trump was in the Epstein files. I did read that somewhere. I'm not exactly certain what made him want to give that information publicly and if that is in fact true, but I did read that in the news as well. I did.
Crowd did start the day over at Grand Park. City Hall is one block over. You can see City Hall right there on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. There were several protests earlier in the day, and now in the last hour and a half, all of those groups have converged on the steps of the federal building on the 700 block of Los Angeles Street.
Did you guys hear that?
They are
see, this is
look the southbound side.
That's the federal building, and they are repeatedly saying that they cannot protest there. That's illegal. Now, here's my thing. If it's illegal for them to be there, and they're not supposed to be there, well, why are they still there? Maybe I'm not understanding, and anybody who wants to come in and explain it to me, or anybody who may say that's crazy for me to say that, I promise I'm not going to take offense. I promise. I have tough skin. I do not understand if this is supposed to be a federal building and they're not supposed to be there. Okay, it's against the law to be at the federal building. Well, why are they still permitted to be there?
With their shields and doing everything they can to resist any kind of a confrontation.
Can somebody help me out with that?
Mannequins, but they are being taunted by a small
now, I don't wish no harm, you know, or nothing against anybody, regardless as to who the individuals are. But here's the deal. Here's the troops right here that's standing there. Now here we have all of these people. Again, I'm not gonna get offended if anybody says anything. So couldn't they just rush them and go on in? Like, I'm not understanding if that's a federal building, why is this okay? Trev says, I was watching a video earlier and a news reporter got shot by the guard for no reason. Oh, wow. I didn't know that. The guards have to protect themselves also. Okay, Teddy. Remember I said I'm not going to get offended if you guys share with me and say, you know, why. Because I don't know everything. National Guard is only guarding the National Guard is only guarding the federal building, but they have drawn a line and they have to wait for them. Got you. Thank you. Thank you for explaining that. NC says she was hit with the rubber bullets. Frank says they're still there because haven't anyone got shot yet. Okay, so they're using rubber bullets, is what I keep seeing. I saw this a couple of times. Somebody else said rubber bullets. Okay, so they're using rubber bullets to push them back. Joey says, law firm, I didn't have a mortgage because I paid for myself on my own. I'm a gay single Latin American that has been treated like a slave by a judge. Not only one, but 5, maybe more. But these are. Oh, wow, Joey. I'm so sorry to hear that. Your situation. I'm sorry to hear that. My heart goes out to you.
National Guard troops to Los Angeles.
In my opinion, they shouldn't have shot the guy.
To send 2,000 troops, writing on his Truth Social platform.
So the rubber bullets sting a bit, is what Spare Me says. Okay.
If we had not done
Proof
so,
that it won't
Los
kill.
Angeles would have
Okay,
been
so it's not gonna
completely
kill him.
Obliterated. Protests in America's second largest city began on Friday as agents from
martial
US
law
Immigration and Customs
is a
Enforcement, known as
type
ICE,
of legal
carried out
system where the
immigration
military
raids in
takes
downtown
control of
LA
civilian
and
authorities
LA
and
County.
enforces law
The
within a
United Nations
specific
was warning
area.
against any further
It's typically
militarization
invoked
and
during
is urging
emergencies
state
like a
and federal
war
governments to
or
work
rebellion.
together
Right.
on a solution.
Still a
Now let's
bullet.
go to our North
She did
America
nothing wrong.
correspondent Anthony
She
Zerko,
wasn't
who's been
threatening
following the
them.
latest
So
on this
here's the
story
deal.
for
Why
us.
did they
Anthony,
do
good
it
to
if
see
she
you.
wasn't
We've
threatening
seen this
them?
continue
Like,
to escalate,
was it
certainly in
like
terms
for
of
an
political
example?
rhetoric. Just tell us what you make of what we've seen from both the president and California today.
Well, we've seen, as
Like,
you mentioned, escalation in rhetoric
is
between the
anybody able to
president and
elaborate
California
on that?
Governor Gavin Newsom.
Is
Earlier
anybody
today,
able to
Donald
elaborate?
Trump
Sideshow
appeared
January
to
6th
endorse
again, but it's
an earlier
June the 9th.
allegation or suspicion
She was
that,
in the crowd with the
that Gavin
people.
Newsom should
Okay,
be
NC.
arrested. He said it was a good
Okay,
idea.
NC.
Gavin
Thank
Newsom
you. Thank you.
immediately
Teddy
pushed
says she
back,
found
saying,
out
that was a move towards authoritarianism.
because they thought she was
Earlier
a
administration
protester.
officials
Oh,
said,
okay,
anyone
okay.
who attempted
I
to
get it now.
obstruct,
Okay, I get
the
it.
immigration enforcement in California, who could be subject
They were
to
just
arrest.
trying to
Gavin
show
Newsom,
people
pushed
what they
back
would do
strongly
to
against
them.
that.
So
the
Trev, you saying
rhetoric
that
is
they made an
increasing, and
example
now the
out of
escalation as well
that
on the
individual. She
ground
was
of
by
US
herself in the
military
center.
forces, active duty Marines being sent in a
Forget about it,
supporting
says
role,
in
but
the back
still
of her
on the
leg.
ground.
Wow.
Nonetheless, in addition to those,
Wow.
to
Can you
those
guys see
National
them
Guard
like
troops and the
they're
LA police that are already
somebody
on the
said
scene, that
in the
represents
comments
a
that they've
new
drawn a
level
line, and as
of
long as they
these,
don't pass it, they're
of the
good.
possible
She stepped
instability
past.
in these
Oh,
protests. It's probably
L1
going
says she
to
stepped
instigate
past the
further
line.
protests, but the potential
Okay.
for more conflict is very
She
real.
stepped backwards
Anthony,
past the
as you see,
line
we're
because she
looking
wasn't
again at
paying
live
attention.
pictures as people have
But here's the
amassed
deal.
in parts
Couldn't they
of downtown
see
Los Angeles.
that
We
it
see
perhaps
there,
was an
National
accident
Guard
then that she
members
stepped
lined up
back?
in front of a federal
I don't know. I'm
facility,
just
so we're
saying.
watching that to see what happens next.
And
But
Teddy
as we do
Owens said
so,
they
tell
need
us
to
a
go
bit more
home.
about how the president and his administration
Okay, so it was a
are
reporter
defending
from
the decision.
Australia.
Well, they are saying that they are defending law and order.
Yeah, she would say
As
they're
you
looking at
noted
each other's
earlier,
without a
Donald Trump's
plan like
characterizing
idiots.
this as a threat to law and order, an invasion.
If you
of America's
haven't
second
subscribed,
largest
please
city,
subscribe.
a possible insurrection.
Please
that
subscribe.
these are
Whenever
riotous
I go
mobs,
live,
migrant
everybody
mobs,
cannot
she's
get
called
on
them.
in some
And
cases
so
because you have to have a
justifying
certain
this
number of
stepping in, and other
subscribers. So if you
administration
don't
officials
mind
are
subscribing, I would
justifying
really
this
appreciate it.
intervention as standing up for law
Please,
and
phone
order, and
numbers are a
also
part of the
following
problem
through on
because
a
they're
campaign
lawyers like the
promise, which
judges and
was
like the
mass
clerks. It makes the
deportations. If
system
you
knowing
remember,
they're stealing.
during the
Wow.
presidential
Okay,
campaign this
destroying
last
lives
year,
and the
Donald Trump talked
corruption.
about it all the time. He was supported by a
Trev
majority
said
of
they're
public
doing their
opinion, and
job.
at the Republican National Convention, there were delegates there holding up signs saying mass deportation now. So essentially,
well, elsewhere says, do you think they don't have a plan?
But then
they got the trucks ready
to ensure the security while these forces are rounding up migrants, undocumented migrants, detaining them.
Rocky says nobody's innocent. But here, covering the protests. But here's the deal. His line secure their car. Some of them. Good to see you people. Now, have been gathering to protest. For the people who have a flag of American. Of the United States, I can't even get it out. For the one who has the United States of America flag and then Mexico on one flag, could that be viewed as they're glad that they're here for the land of opportunity, but then showing love and loyalty to home as well?
By the authorities on the ground. And you can probably see behind me a fairly large police presence. We're seeing police in California Highway Patrol here. What they're trying to do.
Thank you. I appreciate it for those of you who subscribed. I appreciate for those of you who subscribed.
Exactly down
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So when I come on, everybody's able to come on, and I'm not limited to who can come on. Thank you in advance. I appreciate it. I see some people who have subscribed. Thank you.
They're in front of the other entrance here to that federal building.
Thank you so much for subscribing. It's just a click of a button, subscribe. Here's the deal. Here's why I say subscribe. We all can watch the news by ourselves, but it's something about watching the news and hearing the opinions of others, because what happens is it helps you not to see things from one perspective and not have a closed mind. When we look at the news together, you hear the opinions and what somebody else thinks about everything. NC Matt, hello from North Carolina. Subscribe, please. Subscribe.
Other people coming out in support, obviously, of many of the people that were detained. And we've been talking with lots of protesters here who.
Well, somebody said the Mexicans are not afraid of the soldiers, and somebody's about to get beat.
People on top of cars. Waving Mexican flags.
I can just say this, and I know many of you know this as well, okay? The president has sent the troops out in an effort, he says, to kind of de-escalate things and take care of things. It seems as if that's not happening. Who is joining us now. Thank you so much for being with us in our program today. I want to ask you, first of all, about what we've seen in terms of the legal approach from the state of California, not the city of Los Angeles. So to be clear here, the state of California says it will file suit against President Trump for federalizing the National Guard. Did you guys hear that? That a lawsuit is warranted here. Do you guys think a lawsuit is warranted?
Short answer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I have not, as you may have seen.
So do you guys think a lawsuit is
at the forefront of any litigation
necessary?
The federal administration?
Or do you guys feel like a lawsuit is not necessary? So they're going to sue him for sending out troops.
Administration exceeds its constitutional
Who agrees with that?
Grounds and uses
Teddy said they voted for Trump. Brandon says federal troops state
not for law enforcement within our borders. I have no choice but to examine every tool available in our tool chest.
No, it's not necessary. The National Guard is federal. Governors have the power to request him. But they're suing.
All my might, because this is unquestionably an overreach. I'd like to address what Mr. Bannon just said. Whether or not the president.
Well, Stan says you can sue anybody for anything. True. We're in the land of the free and America, and we do these type things. It's good to have you with us. We're glad it hasn't been bad. Marines are being deployed to Los Angeles to help the federal response to protests against immigration raids. Let's look at some live pictures now from Los Angeles. Well, the thing about it is, when the Marines get there, the Pentagon said things are either going to escalate or they're going to de-escalate. So it's going to go either way. Gavin Newsom denounced the Marine deployment as fulfilling the, quote, deranged fantasy of a dictatorial president. Earlier, California's Attorney General did you guys hear that? Suit against the president for deploying the National Guard. They're saying that he's acting like a dictatorial president. US Immigration and Customs Enforcement, known as ICE, as to what he's doing, immigration raids in downtown LA because he's not listening to the governor to say that he doesn't need the help.
Carl, tell us
And
what's
he's
going
kind
on.
of proceeding with, what he wants to do. And they're saying dictatorship.
We're at the federal building, and this has been
Who agrees
the
with
nexus
that?
of the most chaotic protests that we've seen over the past 4 days or so here in downtown Los Angeles. We're just steps away from the freeway that was occupied yesterday.
Who agrees with that?
You can take a look at what's happening right now. A sizable group
No,
of
Paul
protesters.
says nonsense.
This has grown over the past few hours, facing off now with not only local police, but you can see
maybe they will offer citizenship if people join the Marines.
Troops. They've been
Rhetoric is his job to protect the country, just shows gangs incompetence.
It's remained relatively peaceful.
Rocky said it's simple. They should just go home. Well, here's the deal.
Emotional about these immigration raids that the city has been experiencing.
It's not appearing to be that way.
But this is, compared to yesterday, Sumi, a lot more peaceful.
It just makes me even more sad and rage inside that I'm here as a Latin American in Italian skin trying to explain this to even other people of color and the black community, and it just looks at me. People should join the cause instead of criticizing. We live in a dictatorship.
Here and right now, the authorities seem content to keep this group here, allow them to chant, allow them to express themselves. But what it seemed like they really did want to do was get people away from that freeway.
Paul says it's mostly females out there.
Highway patrol officers that were there, and they said that
that's the reason why I like discussing these type things. That's a great observation. So where are the males?
On that freeway and blocking cars for about an hour or so.
Trump has the right and the responsibility to protect any federal building.
Officers were suffered minor injuries yesterday from those confrontations.
Crazy they are displaying Mexican flags.
What we're seeing, and I think what the hope is it won't escalate any further.
The governor should have activated the National Guard and not denied it
Sunday was that once night fell,
when this started.
Okay. More violence and more emotional scenes playing out in the streets.
Yeshua said, it's not our fight, sorry.
Vandalism at some shops in downtown Los Angeles. So
it's in Project 25. Did nobody read it? Okay, okay.
Stick it out and continue to get their message out.
Yeah, and Carl, of course,
if you say don't like it, leave, then you have cause. This is what being America is. Well, that's part of the problem. A lot of people are saying that they're not understanding the protest and why they just won't accept and just go home.
I did speak with one protester about that a little bit earlier, and she said flat out, it doesn't make me feel safe. I think that's probably the consensus opinion among many people.
So this way they did here in New York is I was only one protesting, but they arrested me in a subway twice in Queens and in Bronx for no reason. Oh wow!
Plenty, of course, of
local
police on the scene, and it doesn't seem like for now the demonstrators
and
really
says true. It's all in Project 25. Okay.
Against really any authorities that are here, they see them.
Rocky says girls are more emotional,
right
so
now,
that's the reason why they're out there, not females, is what you're saying. The governor and the president both have the ability to activate the National Guard, is what Rocky is saying.
Well, he said, he didn't say he didn't
the
want
Marines
them here,
are fit in discipline, is what Stan is
when you're trying to navigate and communicate between several different groups of police.
And says they think protesting is bad.
Quite a challenge.
It's American.
Right now, I think it's important to point out that those National Guard members, and for now,
Steve said nothing is going to come of this.
Will only be here guarding these types of buildings, these federal buildings.
If people's rights are violated, it's everyone fight. Okay, so you are commenting to the other person who said it's not their fight. So you feel like it's everybody's fight. Okay.
Yeah, that's an important
National
point
Guard
there.
versus
Carl,
Marines is what
great
Kevin
to get
said.
that update from the ground there. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you later. And for more on what's happening in Los Angeles, as we continue to keep these pictures up so we can see what develops, we can bring in.
Is there anybody on here that's from the Los Angeles area? Is there anybody on here that's from the Los Angeles area?
First of all, just tell us a bit more about what Latino communities in Los Angeles and the surrounding areas say about what the last few days have been like.
I'm a retired Marine, so I
Thank you.
definitely
Good
know about
evening.
the
I would
discipline
say
of the
that our immigrant
Marines. Yes,
communities
Marines are
as a
definitely
whole
disciplined.
are living in fear.
Protesting isn't
It has
bad.
been
Being
chaos the
pieces
last few
of
days.
stuff
These
and
raids
setting
have
stuff
come
on fire is
into
bad.
our
Stealing is
neighborhoods, our
bad.
city,
Correct.
and
When they start to
just
do all of that.
created panic. It's instilled fear. It's really made our
They
communities
are
feel
here
unsafe
illegally.
with
Those
this
people are messed up.
drastic show of military
Yeshua
force.
said
And
Phoenix,
so
Arizona. Okay.
it's quite concerning what we're seeing, and we
Okay,
see no
Robert
end in
says I'm
sight.
from LA. So Robert, if
We've
you're
seen,
from LA,
indeed, Carla, and, you know, we've
can you
seen
share with
the Trump
us, like, is it really
administration,
chaotic,
say that
the way
it was
that
important to
is being
militarize
portrayed on the
the
news?
response to these protests because of the violence that was employed against ICE agents and trying to carry
Please
out their
support my
raids.
Mexican
What do you think
friend
of that?
Nick. He was
We know
deported.
that
Shout,
that's
we
just
love
not
you, Nick.
true. We've
Why
had
was Nick
local
deported? Was he
police
deported
agencies verify
because
that
he
that
was
hasn't been the
here
case.
illegally, or
Our
something
immigrant
happened with his
communities
paperwork?
deserve for
So
us to come
unfortunate
out
that he
and
was
support
deported
them and
because
let them know that
he
we are with
probably,
them.
you
And
know,
with that
had
comes
family here,
peaceful protest,
certain and
comes civil
friends, and was
disobedience.
deported.
All of these things are not new to us
No
as a
protesters are
community. We
most
know
from
how
here. They
to
just have family
come
that
out
can be
and
affected.
support.
Okay.
And so we know that it is in our best interest to get our message across, to be peaceful demonstrators, to show that civil
Okay, he
disobedience,
did not
that
have
we
a
are not
green
okay with
card.
these raids. We
Okay,
are not
didn't have a
okay
green
with
card.
this
Gotcha.
militarization. And as such,
Hopefully he goes through the
our
process and
events are
gets to come back.
organized.
Okay.
We are
I'm not
able to
understanding, and maybe
organize
somebody
thousands
can
of
help me
people
to
to come out and
understand who
support.
has
And it is
knowledge
this
of
administration
how
that
all
has
of this goes.
escalated the situation by first calling in the National Guard and now calling in
Could they just go
Marines
through the
from
proper way
from Camp
of
Pendleton.
being
So, Carla,
legal
you mentioned peaceful protests there. We
and
do know
follow the
there were these pockets of
protocols
violence,
and
particularly
avoid
overnight.
being
Are you
deported?
concerned that violence, those
Again,
images that were, of course,
I'm
being
not going
across
to get
TV
offended
screens,
if anybody
that
says, "Oh, I can't believe you don't know that." I don't know
what you
all
say
of those
is a protest
details,
and civil
but
disobedience?
would they just
It
kind of
does
be able to
detract
go through the
if
steps
the
and be
folks
able
that
to
are
come
looking at that are only
to
looking
this
at those
land of
images,
America
because we have
to be
several
able
more
to
images. We have hours of
enjoy a better
protest
life than what
without
they're
any
currently
sort of
enjoying if they just
negative
go through the
incidents
proper
unfolding.
process?
However, some choose to only
If
focus
they
on
haven't been put
those
on
small
the
incidents, those far
denied
and
list.
few between incidents where
Yes, I have
people,
5 employees
you
that
know,
come from
the
Mexico.
frustration gets the
They're
better
here
of
9
some
months out the
folks.
year. It's called the
Sometimes it's
H-2B
folks
program.
that are
Thank you doing
really
it
just
work
trying
for
to
explaining that. I
cause
really
that trouble or
appreciate
cause
that.
that negative image
Okay,
of
and then
what we're trying
somebody
to do
says
of
if they're
change
not
the messaging
criminals, you
of our
gotta go
narrative.
through
But we have
INS.
to stay strong in that we are here with
They
demands
are
for
in the
us
process. So Kevin,
to
what
get
you're
those
saying, they
across
are in the
peacefully in an
process. So
organized
here's the
manner
deal,
of
Kevin.
we
If
need these
they're in the
raids to
process
stop.
of
They're
doing it
endangering
the
our
legal
communities. We
right
need to
way,
stop the militarization
why are they being
of
deported?
armed forces in our communities. We want
So
due process rights
is it that
respected. We need
they're
these
all
detainees
here
to have
illegal
access
and
to legal
not trying to
counsel.
get their
We need to
paperwork to
stop the
do it the
racial
right way
profiling,
while they're
and we
being
have a right to
deported?
peaceful protest.
We'll have to leave it there, Carla, but thank you so much for joining us on BBC News.
They are in the process. Now the wall up, they can't go back and forth. Okay, Paul, thanks for explaining that. The wall is up, so they can't go back and forth. Gotcha.
Things have remained very peaceful.
Wiley
so far
says
today,
maybe
not
expired
like some of the scenes that
papers.
we saw
No,
Sunday
they
evening,
crossed illegally.
in Los Angeles. But as we
Doing
continue to
work
look at these
says they
pictures,
love their
we want to
own
bring you the
country, like
perspective of the Trump
coming here to
administration, its
work.
allies.
One
Chief
has a
Presenter
farm
Katrina
with
Perry sat
800
down
acres
with the
and
former White
100
House
horses.
chief strategist
They
Steve
don't
Bannon
want to
discuss
live
the
here,
latest
just
developments.
work.
Take a listen.
Oh, okay. Thanks
I
for
come from
explaining
Richmond, Virginia.
that.
Know
Wow.
something about states' rights. And Gavin Newsom is acting like a neo-Confederate
Wow.
right now. The federal government has every
Okay, so they're here.
availability
And
to
so
do what they
somebody
did to
pointed
federalize
out
National Guards,
the
particularly
wall
if they
was
think
up.
of a commander-in-chief
Now the wall
thinks
is
that
up
something's
now,
not
so they
being
can't go
handled
back and
properly, and that's what
forth.
the president
So
did.
I'm going to assume, and
argument
I don't
today
know
on
if
the
this is
show
true,
is that he should
when the
double and triple
wall
down
was
today
down, they
with
just
ICE
kind
raids.
of freely
We've had
went
an
back
invasion
and
of this
forth
country
between the two
just on
countries.
Biden's watch.
And so
10
they
to 13
no longer
million
can do that.
illegal
Okay.
alien invaders, and they all have to go home. Not just the criminals. Every person that came here on
But
Biden's
they're
watch
sending
has
the
to be
money back
deported. And
home
that's what
instead of the
they're
money
trying to
staying
stop
in the
now with
United
these
States. Got
with
it.
people like Mayor
Got
Bass
it.
and Gavin Newsom.
So it's
And
not
the president, it's
circulating in
absolutely
our
the prerogative of the
economy
president
and
as
building
commander-in-chief
our
to do
economy
what
is what you're saying. So it kind of stimulates their economy because it's not being spent here. invasion or a rebellion. If you just come on, would you subscribe for me, please? Whenever I come on, there are times that I have certain numbers of people on, and they all cannot come on because it sends me a message saying I do not have enough of subscribers. So if you don't mind subscribing for me, please, I would really appreciate it. If you do not mind subscribing, I would appreciate it. Thank you so much.
The LAPD's kind of stood down. They shut down.
But they would reject that characterization.
That's not true, is what Ann says. Immigrants pay taxes.
I lived in
Okay.
LA for 20 years.
So, Ann, are you saying that they're not sending their money back home? Or are you saying that
a war zone?
when I say that they're not stimulating our economy, that's not correct because they have to pay taxes?
But no arrest.
But they did it themselves. They didn't need the National Guard.
It was
there.
never meant to keep
By the way, the National
out
Guard, remember,
Mexicans.
the mandate of the
Okay,
National Guard
so
about
the wall
federalizing
being
National
put up
Guard
was never
is
meant to
protect
keep them
federal
out. Okay.
property and to protect federal agents in their actions as ICE agents for deportations. And you have these local sanctuary cities, which are completely against federal law, that people like Mayor Bass and Governor Newsom
Doing work
think
said
they
the
can
sad
just,
part is it
override
takes
federal
our
law,
government
like
years to
the
process people
Confederates did
that do
in the
want to come
1860s.
here. The
What
government in
my
Mexico is
recommendation to
corrupt
President Trump
and
the
takes
home
money
Stephen
out the
Miller
banks at any
specifically
given
is to
time.
arrest
Okay, so
Mayor
that's
Bass.
one of the
They should-
reasons why they're trying to
local
flee.
officials
What grounds?
So basically, in a
interfering with
nutshell,
federal
they're
authorities
better
that
off
are
here in America, and
prosecuting,
this is the
their
reason why they're
mandate, which is to get
resisting
people out
and
of the
do not
country. You've
want
seen
to
this in
go
Chicago.
back.
You're beginning to see it in New York.
Teddy
You
says they
certainly see it
don't
in
pay
LA. I think
taxes.
it's totally real.
LOL.
Stand up in court.
That's something I'm gonna
Right,
have
just
to
like this
research when
travel
I
ban
get
the
off
other day
because
is
now
standing up in
you
court.
guys have
President
me
Trump,
curious
we'll
because
talk
I have
about
some
that
people
in
who
a
are
minute.
saying they pay
We have a
taxes
massive
and some people
insurrection.
saying they're
Just on
not.
the issue of states' rights, though, the Secretary for Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, just over a year ago, February
Okay,
last year,
Matthew
when Joe
says
Biden was being
BS.
encouraged
There
to
is a
federalize the
legal
National
way
Guard
to
in
come
Texas,
here.
she said not to do that, that would be a direct attack on
HBO
states' rights,
says,
and that
how you
states
fighting to
should
come
be allowed
in
to
my
make those
country illegal?
decisions
This
for
is not
themselves. In what President
diabolical.
Trump is doing, doesn't
Um,
that set a precedent for at another time when perhaps there's a Democratic president that they could do the same
Though
thing?
they do
before, back in the
build
1960s
our
when Lyndon
economy.
Johnson did this
You
about
wouldn't
civil
believe
rights.
the amount of
The
electronics
president
that
is
my
his
guys
Article
take
II
home
powers
every year.
as
Wow.
commander-in-chief.
Okay,
His full
thanks
ability
for
to do this. That's the way he's
letting me
doing it. I
know
don't think
that.
there's any question
So
about it.
they
The
do
courts will
have
upheld
a
this.
Same
positive
thing.
They're gonna take
impact
today
on our
in California. I
economy.
think they're going
Okay,
to go to federal court.
that's
And
good
sue.
to
And by the
know.
way, they should go ahead. As you know, they're going to federal court with everything with President
Trust me,
Trump.
at those fast food
Essentially,
spots, they don't even
the
speak
courts are
English. They
backing us
getting
up and
paid
everything.
under the
And
table.
my
Wow.
being a
The
maximalist
legal way to
to make
come
sure
here
that we
is
get this
cheap and
done.
easy.
I'm saying that
Matthew,
you should
is
drive
it?
this even more. I
So
think the writ of habeas corpus
Matthew
ought to be
is saying
suspended
the
instead of being
legal
revised,
way to
particularly
come
with the
here
criminal
is
element
cheap and
that's got to be
easy.
shipped out of the country.
Now, first of all, the courts are not backing
Ann
up
says to
President
look up
Trump and
tax
everything that he's trying
identification
to
number.
do, but that
Okay,
is
I
one of
will when I get
the
off. I
things about
will.
America that makes
So
America,
I'm
isn't it, that people
informed.
can have the separation of
Illegal
powers and they can
people,
challenge this
I'm sorry,
through
But
illegal
remember,
court.
paying
the
taxes
courts,
is crazy.
there is not
Some
any,
here
there's
legal
nothing in the
work
Constitution
benefits
about
get
judicial
benefits when they
supremacy.
get here.
It's
Okay,
about
Teddy.
judicial review.
And we are expecting a lawsuit from California later today, as
Yes,
you've mentioned.
yes.
But
They
just the
pay
extension of that, when we
sales
hear from the
tax.
Secretary of Defense,
Okay.
Pete Hegseth, saying that he would be
A
prepared to
lot
send
of illegals
Marines
pay
to
taxes
California. What's your
with
view on that? I mean,
their
that is an
I-10
escalation of the
numbers
situation.
and property tax, if
When
I
you say
said that
escalation,
right.
that was done in the 1992.
And
I
Teddy
think,
says
the,
they're
the
working
Rodney
for
King
cheap.
riots, the Marines from Camp Pendleton went up. I think the Marines ought to be called out. I think more
But what
National
if
Guard
these
ought to be
people
there. I
are
think there ought
trying
to
to
be more
give
ICE
their
rates. I think
paperwork
they ought to arrest
respectively?
Where do you see
So
the
here's the
threat
deal
to
for my
safety
American
and to
people who are on
American
here.
citizens
Did you see
at this
the?
point?
Did you
Do
watch
you
the
guys
weekend?
feel
Did you see
like
this? Could you
the
possibly
proper
look at that footage
protocol
and
is
tell me it
in
wasn't safety
place
to American
when
citizens?
these
These are American citizens protesting.
when
You don't
the
know that. Look at the
immigrants
foreign
are
flags.
approached?
You have no earthly
Like,
first
do
off,
you
there's-
feel
let me
like
repeat this for
they
the
are
BBC to please
approached the
write
right
down.
way and
There's
given an
10
opportunity
million
to
illegal-
prove
10 million
that they are here
illegal
correct?
alien invaders came in here in
Okay,
4 years.
how many
They're
people
all
believe
going out of the
that?
country.
Like, how
Okay,
many
they're all
people
going out of the
believe that
country.
it's being done the right way?
I didn't know. I didn't say they were all American citizens.
It takes a long time and should because people should be vetted. Sales tax at the store isn't nothing compared to the ones getting taxes taken off their paycheck. I can agree on that one.
They're breaking the law, and this is why
Because the one being taken out of your check is like
you people absolutely refuse
a whole
to
lot of money.
believe what the facts are
If
that
they
you
are
let
here
Biden and his
illegal, they
regime
don't pay any
understands that they
taxes.
allow 10
True,
million people
Vance,
to come
you're
here
right.
illegally.
You're right.
all of this.
You're right. I'm gonna say it again. You're right. If they're here illegal, they're not paying any taxes.
Support
But
us
if they're
getting
here
the 10 million
legally,
illegal alien
they
invaders
have
out
to
of here.
pay taxes,
This is
right?
what- this is why- this is what-
Sorry
this
for
is why
interrupting, Steve, but just
Lord
just
Butterwine
looking at
said
the
they're
specifics of what we
basically
saw. I want to get to the
have
thinking behind
been
this and what
made
Pete Higgs had to say.
into
So
a
it's
permanent
interesting for
surf
our
class
viewers to
that
see
pay
this.
into
If
a
you have
system they can't
US
use.
Marines in
Okay.
California around protesters,
Okay.
does that not move America
It's not
to a
protesters.
different
It's
point?
not protest. It's not protesters. See, this is
Okay.
what you guys try to do with your
I do
language all the time.
payroll, and
That's not
all
a
my
protest.
guys
That
that are
was a
here
riot,
legally
okay?
on the
You're
H2
interfering
program
with
pay
folks
federal,
that
state,
are
and
being
Social Security
deported out of this
taxes.
country. They are
I'm
breaking
really
the law, and they're
learning.
rioting. They
Thank
shut
you
down
for
Los
sharing
Angeles for
that.
like 18
I
hours
had
yesterday.
no
That's not a
idea of
protest.
that.
Nobody said about peaceful
Wow.
protests. If you want to come protest,
Wow.
they
I
intervened
do
with ICE agents doing
payroll,
their
and
job.
all my
Somebody should
guys
call up
that are
the
here
Marines and the U.S.
legally
Army if you have
on the
to, or
H2
activate
program pay
the
federal,
reserve, the Army
state,
Reserve.
and Social Security
Federalizing
taxes. I didn't
National
know
Guard is just
that.
step one. But folks have to understand, and particularly BBC ought to embrace this, this is not going to stop.
If they are here
Around the world and
legally,
across
then
the
they
UK,
don't have
this
to
is
worry
BBC
about being
News.
deported. Okay, Ryan, so what you're speaking to is that you feel like it's being done the right way. And a lot of negative that people are saying, you know, that it's not being done correctly. You are disagreeing with that and saying if they have everything in place, then they're
Gavin Newsom, who's a
good.
Democrat, has sued President Trump over his deployment of the National Guard in Los Angeles against his wishes. He's accused Mr. Trump of seeking
Wow.
to manufacture a crisis. Rioting was sparked after the Trump administration sent
So they go
immigration
on to
agents
say,
to
do you
detain
guys hear this?
unauthorized migrants in the city.
It's like they're saying
President
that
Trump
he's
says the
doing
move
this
is
on purpose
necessary
to
for
make
law and
matters
order,
worse.
and that without it, LA would have been completely obliterated. Correspondent John Sudworth is there. John.
Wow. Wow.
Well, things are a little calmer, at least so far today. You can see the protesters here, I'd say no more than 100 or so, gathered outside this detention centre where some of the
Teddy says it
immigrants
might
detained
depend
in those
on the state.
workplace raids are
Okay,
being
Irene
held.
says
And on
Trump,
this
no.
side you can see
So you're
the
saying that
LAPD.
that's
Their
not
numbers
what
have
Trump
been
is
boosted
doing. He's
today
not
by
doing it on
reinforcements
purpose.
brought in from outside
Like
Los
the news
Angeles
is
County. For the most
reporting that the
contentious part of
governor
this picture
stated.
is a little bit further over there. You can see the members of the
Steve
National
said, I
Guard
agree.
stood by.
If people let them do their job, it will be okay. So Steve agrees that it's being done for the wrong reason, to cause
between
issues.
the president of this country and the governor of this state. There's now a huge
Truth
police
hurts,
presence in this city,
doesn't it?
with reinforcements brought
Ryan
in as
said,
the
no,
authorities
he's just
tried
finally
desperately to
enforcing
contain the
it.
violence.
It's whiplash going
Overnight,
from
once
Obama to
again,
Trump to
protesters threw
Biden
fireworks,
back to
and the
Trump.
police
Wow.
responded with force, making a number of arrests. But an already tense situation triggered by the workplace raids and arrests
So
of
like, look at
undocumented
this. Like
immigrants
they're showing
now has a
the
complex
we've been
political
looking at the peacefulness,
The
but they're
National Guard,
showing
the
where it has
reservist
not always
military
been
force, is
peaceful.
often used to respond to natural disasters and is normally called in by state governors. Not
See, this is
time.
not peaceful.
For the first time in 60 years, a US president has ordered them in, while members of his administration warn that anyone who gets in the way, even senior politicians, face arrest.
Oh, wow.
Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy.
It's a
Wow.
threat that's been met with a furious response from California's governor, speaking to MSNBC.
The hell are they doing?
Oh, wow.
These guys need to grow up. They need to stop. And we need to push back. And I'm sorry to be so clear, but that kind of bloviating is exhausting.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Tom, arrest me.
Then this from President
Oh, wow.
Trump. Asked if the governor should be arrested, I would, he replied.
He's an incompetent governor. Look at the job he's doing in California.
Oh, wow.
He's destroying one of our great states. And if I didn't get involved, if we didn't bring the Guard in, and we would bring more in if we needed it, because we have to make sure there's going to be law and order. You had a disaster happening.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
the streets of downtown LA
Wow.
are littered
So
with
the
debris
president,
of
we all
last
just
night's
heard it.
trouble. If you just, anywhere
he's-
you look, you pick them up, you've got the
He said that
hundreds and hundreds of these baton rounds.
he
rubber
felt it
bullets,
was
the
needed.
canisters from which they've been fired, and also rocks, which we've seen protesters sometimes throwing at the police.
Okay, you guys
It's
heard
quiet
from
at the
both of
moment,
them.
but these officers
You
have
heard
been
from the
drafted in
governor
from neighboring
and you
police
heard from
forces
the
as the
president.
city braces for
So
more trouble today.
why are they
One
sending,
sign of just how
they're
dangerous
sending
things have
opposite
become. This
information.
reporter from the
Look,
Australian
oh,
Channel 9
wow.
News was hit by a rubber bullet live on air.
Live on air.
This city now finds itself at the center of an escalating political fight between a president and a governor. In response to Mr. Trump's comments about his arrest, Gavin Newsom said this was
Civil war
a day he hoped
incoming.
he'd never see
That's
in
what a lot
America.
of people are saying.
In many ways, some of the biggest constitutional issues of our day are now being played out on the streets of Los Angeles. Questions over the limits of presidential power against the extent of state rights. The authorities here know that those scenes of violence are playing into
It
the
seems like the
president's
governor is
narrative.
really
That's
upset.
why they believe he's deployed the
But
National
President
Guard for
Trump
those
was kind
public
of
imaging
calm. He
effects.
wasn't
It is
upset.
also why we are hearing leaders in this city time and time again appealing for the protesters to show
Teddy Owens says, my guys average 9 to 12 hours a day. I pay time and a half after 40 hours. I'm lucky to get Americans. They can show up every day of the week for 2 weeks straight. Wow. Wow. So you guys just heard what happened. The governor is really, really upset. He showed a lot of emotions right there.
His decision to send 2,000 troops, writing on his Truth Social platform, quote, "We made a great decision in sending the National Guard. If we had not done so, Los Angeles would have been completely obliterated." Protests in America's
Who agrees with that
second-largest city
statement?
began on Friday as agents from U.S.
So
Immigration
did
and
he
Customs
act
Enforcement, known as
hastily,
ICE,
or
carried
did
out
he
immigration
act
raids in downtown LA
in a
and
fashion
County.
of
The
trying to
United Nations is
prevent
warning against any
things from
further
getting out of
militarization
hand?
and is urging state and federal governments to work together on a solution.
Again, Newsom
go
is a
to our
great
North
actor.
America
He does
correspondent
nothing
Anthony
to
Zirko has
offer
been
a
following the
solution,
latest
is what
on this
Ryan
story for
said.
us. Anthony,
Vance
good to
said,
see
I
you.
agree with
We've seen
Trump.
this continue to escalate, certainly in terms of political
HBO, my
rhetoric.
wrist, my
Tell us what
neck,
you make of what we've seen
deportation.
from both the president and California today.
Paul Smith,
Well,
maybe
we've
the
seen,
governor
as you
can't
mentioned,
get
escalation in
his
rhetoric between the
fentanyl
president
after
and
all.
California Governor
There
Gavin
even
Newsom.
coke in the White
Earlier
House.
today, Donald Trump
America for the natives, for
appeared to
European
endorse
gays.
an earlier allegation or suspicion that
I agree with
that
Trump.
Gavin
People
Newsom should
are
be
catching
arrested. He said it was a
everything
good idea.
on
Gavin
fire
Newsom immediately
with the
pushed
fire
back,
history, is
saying
what Amberly
that
Rose
that
is
was a
saying.
move towards authoritarianism. Earlier administration officials have said anyone who attempted to obstruct the enforcement,
If you use a fake
California
SSN, you're still getting taxed. You don't
strongly
get
against
to
that. So
skip
the
getting
rhetoric
taxed
is
unless
increasing,
you're
and now the
getting paid
escalation as well
under the
on the
table
ground of US
by a
military forces,
LN
active duty
employer,
Marines
which is
being sent
also
in a supporting
illegal.
role, but
All
still
right,
on
thank
the
you.
ground.
Great
Nonetheless, in addition
information.
to
Wow,
those,
great
to
information.
those
Thank you
National
for
Guard
sharing
troops
that.
and the LA police that are already on the scene, that represents a new level of these.
Don't you guys fear a
of
civil
possible
war?
instability in these protests. It's probably going to instigate further protests.
Joey
but the
says, I
potential
lived there for 3
more
years.
conflict is very real.
Anthony, as you're speaking, we're looking
And
again
I'm
at
gonna
live
mess up
pictures
that
of
word, so I'm
people
not
have
gonna even try to pronounce
amassed in
it.
parts
With a
of
record
downtown
deal
Los
by
Angeles.
Priority
We see
Records,
there,
and
National
they've
Guards
been
members are
hurting,
lined up in front of
hunting
a
me
federal
down since
facility,
I
so we're watching
never
that to
signed the
see,
contract.
what
So
happens next.
Joey,
But as we do
when
so,
you
tell us
say
a bit more
hunting you
about how the
down,
president
are
and
they
his administration
constantly
are
reaching
defending
out
their
to
decision.
you?
Well, they are saying that they are defending law and order. As you noted earlier, Donald Trump is characterizing this
Okay,
as a
now,
threat to law and
Bill,
order, an invasion
you
of
saying
America's second
it was
largest city,
peaceful
a
till the National
possible
Guard came in.
insurrection, that these
Now,
are
let me
riotous
ask you this,
mobs,
Bill, and I just have to
migrant
ask.
mobs, he's called them. And so he's justifying
Do you
this
feel
stepping
like
in, and other administration officials are
it escalated and
justifying
got
this
worse when the
intervention
guards
as
were sent
standing
in?
up for law and order, and
Because the
also
reason why I'm
following
asking
through on
this,
a
Bill,
campaign
that's
promise,
what
which
the
was
governor
mass
has
deportations.
alluded
If you
to.
remember,
He is
during the
saying
presidential
it was
campaign just
fine
last year,
before
Donald
they
Trump
came
talked
in
about
and it
all the
wasn't
time.
necessary.
He was supported by a majority of public opinion, and at the Republican National
I'm
Convention,
happy
there were
I still
delegates
got
there
like
holding
another
up
6
signs
years
saying
until
mass
I have to pay
deportation
my
now.
bills
So
and get a
essentially,
job.
they're saying
Oh,
this is
wow.
not only a
Another
follow-through of a
6 years
campaign
before you have
promise,
to pay
but then
bills.
stepping forward to ensure the security while these
Newsom
forces are
drained
rounding
half
up
their
migrants,
water
undocumented
storage. Really?
migrants, detaining them and preparing them for deportation.
I'm gonna need to see everyone's
The
green
U.S. military has
cards.
confirmed it is activating 700 Marines to Los Angeles as unrest continues in parts of the city. It comes as the state of
Joey,
California is
here
suing
in
the Trump
New
administration over
York,
its
through the
earlier decision
Southern
to
District
deploy
of New
National
York
Guard troops
and through the
to
Mercer
Los
County,
Angeles.
they charged
President
me
Trump
with false
defended his
allegations
decision to send
for
2,000
years.
troops,
God
writing
put
on
me
his Truth
away
Social platform,
for life,
quote,
tried
"We made
killing
a
me,
great
stole
decision in
all my
sending the
meal.
National Guard. If we had not done so, Los Angeles would have been completely obliterated. Protests in
Leslie
America's second
states
largest
LA
city began on Friday
did
as
need
agents from
help.
U.S.
People
Immigration
are
and
out of
Customs
control.
Enforcement,
They were
known as
burning down the
ICE,
town.
carried out
Okay,
immigration
Leslie.
raids in downtown
Well,
LA
if they were
and
burning
LA
down the
County.
town, that's why he
United
sent in
Nations is
help.
warning against any further militarization and is urging state and federal governments
If
to
you
work
haven't
together
subscribed,
on a
please
solution.
subscribe. When
Now
I
let's go
come
to our
on,
North America correspondent Anthony
a lot
Zerko,
of
who's been
times
following
I
the latest
have
on
a
this
lot of
story
people who
for us.
can't get
Anthony,
on
good to
because
see
I've
you.
reached my max
We've seen
number.
this continue to
If you
escalate,
guys know
certainly in
anything
terms
about
of political
YouTube, if
rhetoric.
you
Just
do not have
tell us
enough
what
of
you make of what we've
subscribers,
seen from both the
people
president and
cannot come
California
on.
today.
So if you have not
Well, we've
subscribed,
seen, as
please
you mentioned,
subscribe for
escalation in
me.
rhetoric between
I
the
would really
president and California
appreciate
Governor
it. Just
Gavin
click the
Newsom.
subscribe
Earlier
button for
today,
me.
Donald Trump appeared to
Please
endorse
subscribe.
an
Ryan
earlier
says it's a known thing that
allegation or
illegal
suspicion
immigrants
that
hang out in the
Gavin
Home
Newsom should
Depot
be
parking
arrested. He
lots
said it was a good idea.
looking
Gavin
for
Newsom
under the table
immediately
work
pushed
because
back,
they
saying
know the
that was a
DIY
move towards
homeowners will pay them under the
authoritarianism.
table.
Earlier
Oh,
administration officials
wow.
said
I didn't know
anyone who
that.
attempted to obstruct the
Hang out
enforcement,
at the local
immigration
depot,
enforcement
Home
in
Depot.
California
Wow.
could be subject to arrest.
Han
Gavin
says our
Newsom
military
pushed
is the
back
best
strongly against
military in
that.
the
So
world,
the
and
rhetoric
this is
is
not what they
increasing,
are
and now
used
the
to.
escalation as well on the
I
ground
saw a
of U.S.
couple in the
military
Home
forces,
Depot
active duty
parking
Marines
lot this
being
morning.
sent in a
Oh, wow.
supporting role, but still on the ground. Nonetheless, in addition to those.
It is
to
not
those
anti-American
National
to
Guard troops
protest,
and
and
the
just
LA police
protesting
that are
doesn't
already on the scene.
make you a bad
That
person.
represents a new
Well,
level of these
as long as you do it
of
the right
possible
way,
instability in these protests. It's probably going to instigate further protests. But the
as long as we do
potential
it the right
for
way,
more conflict
we
is
should be
very
able to
real.
protest. This is
Anthony, as you're speaking,
America.
we're
We
looking
have to
again
do
at
it the
live
right way,
pictures as
though.
people have amassed in parts of downtown
I'm not
Los
into
Angeles.
riots. All the
We
people
see
like
there
riots should
National
stay in
Guards
one
members
area
are lined
and
up in
riot
front of a
with
federal
each other.
facility. So we're watching
We'll
that
stay
to see
here in the
what
peaceful,
happens
productive
next. But as we
side.
do so, tell us a bit more about how the president and his administration are
There is like
defending
a
their
gang
decision.
of around
Well,
30
they are saying
Mexicans
that they
sitting
are
in the back seat of a car.
defending law
What?
and order. As you noted earlier,
What?
Donald Trump is characterizing
I'm
this
confused. Where?
as a threat to law and order, an invasion of America's second largest city, a possible insurrection, that these are riotous mobs, migrant mobs, he's called them. And so
Well,
he's justifying this stepping
what
in,
we're
and other
going to do
administration
is I
officials are
appreciate everybody for
justifying this
tuning in with
intervention
me
as standing up for
and
law and
giving
order, and
your
also following through on the
feedback
campaign
as to what's
promise,
going
which
on.
was mass
Here's what I'm going to
deportations. If you
close out
remember,
with as I get
during the
ready to
presidential
close
campaign just last year,
out the
Donald Trump
live.
talked about it all the time.
We're
He
going to
was
see,
supported by a majority of public opinion,
and I'll
at
ask the question when I
Republican
come
National
back
Convention,
on,
there were delegates there
when the
holding up
Marines are
signs saying mass
activated,
deportation now.
we're
So
going to see if
essentially, they are
things
saying this is not only a follow-through
get
of a
better
campaign
or if it
promise,
makes
but
things
then
worse.
stepping
The
forward
only
to
way to
ensure
know,
the
okay, is to
security
just sit
while
and
these
pay
forces
attention
are
to
rounding
see
up
what's
migrants,
going to
undocumented
happen.
migrants, detaining
Now,
them,
what I'll
and
say
preparing
is
them for
this.
deportation.
I'm not going to show any favorites on either side, but I am a person that believes if you pray about something, okay, how many of us remember when we used to say things like God bless America? How many of us are saying God bless America? So like this unrest is going to spread to other areas. It will happen. We need God to bless America. That in a nutshell. We need God to bless America. We don't have the unity that we used to have, and we don't have the love and the oneness that we used to have in this country. It's gone. It doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter if you're gay, if you're not gay. It doesn't matter if you are here and you were in another country. We should be able to get along. I should not treat a person a certain way just because they're gay. Okay? I should not treat a person a certain way just because of the color of their skin. I should not treat a person a certain way because they have an education and I don't have one. We have to stop this in America. Okay? People have a right to live whatever life they are living if it's not affecting you in a negative regard. That's between them and God. You should not treat a person a certain way because of the choices or of what they've decided to do. Okay? We need God to bless America and to bless this soul.
today,
It doesn't matter if the person is gay. It doesn't matter if the person is black. It doesn't matter if the person is white, female or male. We need him to bless America and bless the people. Somebody put on here to bless our soul, for God to bless our soul. And that's absolutely correct. It breaks my heart that we cannot be one unity the way that we used to be. It breaks my heart. I dare not treat a person a certain way because of the color of their skin or because they choose to like somebody of the same sex. That's their choice. That's between them and God. Way too many illegals here. Way too many. Well, I'll be back, guys, whenever the troops from the Marines, when the Marines are deployed, we will be back and we're going to take a look at this. If you would please subscribe for me, I would really appreciate it. I would really appreciate it. I thank you from the bottom of my heart if you would subscribe. We're going to come back and revisit this and see where things go when the Marines are sent out, because I'm curious to see what direction this is going to go to. I'm curious if it's going to make matters worse or if it's going to help. I'm absolutely curious as to what will happen with this. This is going to be quite interesting. It's going to be quite interesting because I'll say this. If the governor of California is already upset that the National Guardsmen are out there, how is it going to be when the Marines are on the grounds? Okay? So it sounds like we have division here, right? We have division. Division is never good. Wherever there is division, you can expect trouble. You can expect chaos, okay? Things are not the way that they're supposed to be. We have a governor who's upset, and we have the president who has stepped in and made a decision that he can make because he's the president. That's division, guys, okay? That's division. People are going to be thrown. Yes, they are. So I'm closing off, guys. I want to say to all of you who subscribed, I really appreciate you for subscribing. And we'll be back on once the Marines are on the grounds, and we're going to take a look at whether or not it was a negative effect or whether or not it was a positive effect. You guys have a great one.